world, and welcome to this special broadcast of the African Cup of Nations edition number 32 2019, which will come your way starting June 21st from Egypt. And for us here at Kurunzi, we are setting the pace and we are coming to you live from the Panari Sky Center on Mombasa Road in the capital of Kenya, Nairobi. And this is going to be the home of African Cup of Nations viewing experience. So unique it will be that you cannot afford to miss being here at the Panari Sky Center. We have different options. We have different places that we are going to come you from within this magnificent facility. But here we start at the Shooters and Dips, where Simon is here with us, and there's lots of stuff that you can get here, from the Ruby Lounge to the Sky Lounge. All of them give you a picturesque experience. Remember, you can also enjoy the wildlife, seeing that from the Panari Sky Center. But let's begin just to give you a taste of what hospitality you get here at the Panari Sky Center. We start from the Shooters and Dips, and Simon is here to serve us. Simon, what do you have for us today at the Shooters and Dips?
We have a lot of drinks, from cocktails, both classic and our house cocktails. We have beers, we have spirits, which include whiskeys, vodka, gin, name them.
Well, and then of course there is also food and bitings which you can get. And Simon, for me today, I'll have a Coke, if you don't mind.
Okay.
Well, this is just part of the experience that you're going to have if you come here. Of course, like I said, there are several other facilities here within the Panari Sky Lounge. And thank you very much, Simon. Let me see whether my guests here today, you know, need something. I have the sports editor from the Standard, Robin Toskin, is here with me. Toskin,
good to see
Karibu
you.
Sana. And Melvin Amulioto, a man who I have no description for because he does many things, but for purposes of this show, we are going to call him a media consultant. Gentlemen, welcome to the build-up show for the AFCON 2019, coming to you here on Kurunzi. And for you at home, remember, you can follow us on Facebook. It is Kurunzi on Facebook. You can also follow us on YouTube. It is Kurunzi News. And you can also get all the news that you need to have about the Africa Cup of Nations by logging on to www.kurunzi.co.ke. You can also follow this in your language. If you prefer Swahili, we have swahili.kurunzi.co.ke. And then, of course, the big one is that we have AFCON2019.kurunzi.co.ke. All that is available for you to choose from, to be able to get into the right mood for the Africa Cup of Nations. So, gentlemen, Simon, I think will serve you. What are you going to have, Simon? They gave their orders already. Let's have that as we take center stage for this particular show. When we return, we start the banter here from the Panari Sky Center.
Magic System, Red One, Shawky. Yes, I love that. Feel the magic. Comme d'habitude, on est calé. Comme toujours, ça va aller. On te met l'ambiance à gogo. Tous ensemble, on fait le show.
On t'invite à la magie, y a pas de raccourci. Oublie tes soucis, et viens faire la folie.
On t'invite à la magie, y a pas de raccourci. Oublie tes soucis. Oh, 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 oh. pas seulement pour les bobos. Nous on vient d'un nous mambo. Mon ami, si tu as le niveau, rejoins-nous pour ta...
Welcome back. We take center stage here on Kurunzi, the home of the African Cup of Nations. We set the pace for you. We want to make sure that by the time the tournament starts proper on 21st of June, you would be better placed in terms of information. You will have all the ability to be able to watch those matches. And our theme here is very simple. We call it 3 Ps. We're talking about prediction, we're talking about profiles, and we're talking about placements. So we will be able to take you through all that. And joining me here at the Spanari Sky Center inside the Shooters and Dips is, like I said, Robin Toskin, sports editor Standard, and Melvin Amulioto, who is a media consultant. Remember, I said with a disclaimer, Melvin, that for purposes of this show, we call you a media consultant. And let's begin, gentlemen. We are having the African Cup of Nations. I'll start with you, Robin. For the first time in the history of this tournament, we have 24 teams. What does that mean for you as somebody who sleeps, eats, and drinks football?
Very interesting, of course. Remember, African Cup of Nations, the first edition, kicking off in 1957, staged in Sudan. And it was only 3 teams that participated, that is Egypt, Sudan, and Ethiopia. Of course, South Africa was supposed to have also taken part, but because of the apartheid policies they had to be excluded. Now, many years down the line, the tournament has expanded to 24 teams. I think it's quite exciting, and it has given us an opportunity to watch some of the teams that have not been at the finals for the first time. We've seen Madagascar coming in, Mauritania, Burundi. I think it is so exciting for the whole of the continent.
Well, talking about the excitement, he's speaking as a football purist, as somebody, like we said, football is his cup of tea. But then, from where you stand, this expansion, again, by the way, it marks the return of Kenya to the big table of African football for the first time in a decade and a half, that is 15 years. Last time we were there was in Tunisia, 2004. But here you are, 24 teams. What opportunities does the AFCON of 24 teams present from a marketing perspective, in terms of opportunities that it creates for, name it, whoever it is that you want to speak to?
Okay, first of all, AFCON is very disruptive. Our schedules are going to be turned left, right, center, up and down. We will sleep late, we have to wake up early, go back to our schedules. There are certain media consumption patterns that are also going to be disrupted. Certain programs on TV or on radio or whenever, or any other channel of interaction, they're going to be disrupted. Either conversations are going to go up or others are going to come down. So that is already a magnet. The AFCON is already a magnet for anybody in media or in marketing to tap into. So you would find, I know we'll have this conversation much more later, what are some of the organizations that need to tap into this. But first of all would be something like Brand Kenya through their campaign Magical Kenya. That would be a big opportunity because now Kenya is brought back onto the continental platform. Exactly. So for them, they need to be ready to be making a lot of noise. I think they are.
Well, of course, when he talks about disruptions, even us at the Standard newspaper, I think we'll have bumper coverage of the African Cup of Nations. Of course, if you are used to reading politics, at the Standard, you'll have to read sports. We'll have extensive coverage, of course.
Well, and then, of course, I imagine that across all the other media platforms under the Standard Group, will obviously be focusing on that. But then, of course, that is the story for everybody else in terms of football, and it will be a football carnival for about 30 days. Now, let's go back a little bit and talk about how we got here. I mean, we are looking forward to just under 2 weeks before the football begins on the pitch. But there is a way that all these teams that we are talking about, the Harambee Stars, the Ugandas, Nigerias, and all these teams, there is a way that they have got there. And I will start with you, Melvin. As a Kenyan, it's good to see Harambee Stars go back to the Africa Cup of Nations since 2004, and it was a good qualification round. How does it make you feel that for the first time you're not just going to be considered as others, but you'll be on the high table as a football fan?
Yeah, sure.
It is good to stop being a passive watcher and being an active watcher, because you know, soccer is like a religion. Yeah, and the emotions and the madness that come with it is something everybody needs to be part of. So I think for us as a country, it is extremely nice. Kenyans, as we saw during the qualifying matches, everybody was happy about how we played.
Sure.
And over the years, when you look at back 2004, is a long time. 15 years is actually a very, very long time. We have made good strides, positive strides. We never used to qualify. The last time we qualified, we were beaten, I think, 3-0, 3-0, 3-0, never scored anything. Now, we have players who have put us on the global arena, and we can have those conversations. Victor Wanyama, Mike Lunga, they're there. So we are looking forward to this, and we're optimistic that we'll have better delivery than we've done in the past.
Talking about hope, there is all hope that every team that goes to the AFCON, and this is for you, Toskin, goes there hoping that they are going to win. But let's look at how the journey has been and some of the pointers for you from the qualification round, which at some point was controversial, even that the host was changed a few months ago, just before the end of last year. What were the pointers for you from the qualification round?
Yeah, remember that Cameroon was supposed to have to be staging this tournament, but then that was withdrawn from them. They were stripped of the rights because they were not ready in terms of the infrastructure. And considering that the tournament was expanded from 16 teams to 24, that was always going to be very difficult for Cameroon. But I want to say at this point is that it's good for everyone that this tournament has been expanded to 24. Now Kenya have at least managed to get to the party, though controversially at some point, because Sierra Leone had to be disqualified because of the interference, the government interference in the Sierra Leonean FA. But that should not take away all the effort, the good things that Harambee Stars have done. I think we have one of the best teams in so many years, like just put it, because the players like Victor Wanyama, name them all, they have rallied around the boy, and you can now see we have a good team that is going to represent us. But most importantly is that Africa and East Africa, for that matter, we now have something to shout about. And even we as journalists, because having covered the African Cup of Nations several editions, it's always very difficult working there if your team is not there. Now, I know Kenyan journalists are going to Egypt by right. They will go there anytime there's accreditation and tickets to watch and cover those games. They will always have the first priority. But when you go to AFCON and your country is not there, they tell you, hey, Jama, Banwe, sit back first.
Let's deal with
So I think it's good for Kenya, good for Kenyan journalists. We have to enjoy this.
Well, talking about the front row seats, that is what you're alluding to by saying that we have to wait to finish and then now we deal with others.
Yeah.
Let's talk about some of the pointers and that really gave Africa and the continent was having goosebumps. The qualification matches. I'm looking at Burundi qualifying at the expense of Gabon, whose stars included the Premier League's Golden Boot winner in Aubameyang. But there they are, and Gabon are out. What did you make of that? And which other matches stood out for you?
I remember when the last game, Burundi versus Gabon, it was all over, people were watching because it was a do or die for Gabon. And eventually, Burundi qualified. But if you look at the top scorers of the qualifying rounds, Odion Igalo of Nigeria being the top scorer of the qualifying, the second top scorer with the 6 goals. That is Fiston Abdul Razak, who used to play for Sofapaka. That is commendable for Burundi. You wouldn't know, but Fiston is a Burundian player and is going to Africa Cup of Nations as the second top scorer. I think they are going there by right, but Gabon should look at themselves and ask themselves the questions: why did Aubameyang fail to feature in some of those qualifying matches? But then it's not for us, it's for the Burundians now to celebrate that they have a good team that I want to believe is not just going there as an also run, but they are going to compete.
Well, talking about going to compete, there were other matches. I'm looking at Zambia against Namibia. A very exciting match by any standard. Namibia going there needing to win and getting the goals that they needed, and they are in the AFCON 4. Again, I'm looking at in terms of expectations. We've talked about the qualification. We saw what it brought for the national team, for the Kenyan people, different players. Kenya against Ghana at Kasarani was fully packed, and what a way it turned out to be. Kenya winning 1-0 was a good thing. Are there any low-hanging fruits from a media marketing perspective that the federation and the government and several other players can harness as Kenya readies herself to go to Cairo?
Absolutely, yes. Look at number one, just selling national team, authentic national team merchandise, not the sort of very Juakali merchandise they would find on the street, any hawker doing. But genuine, authentic national team merchandise is revenue for the ministry, the Harambee Stars as a team, and even working down backwards. Yeah, that would be one. Number two, you have the advertising companies and the product people who have products within the sporting industry, yes. Be it from shoes, sportswear, energy drinks. Betting is huge in this country. That AFCON provides such a huge opportunity for them. Number three, there's also an opportunity where you have Kenyan companies that do their trade, ply their trade within the international market. Mm-hmm. Yeah, M-Pesa is one. Yes. Banking, diaspora banking is another one. Like there are too many we have a good number of Kenyans in the US, and they will be following AFCON with particular interest on. Likely they're going to get out on kurunzinews.com.
Very interesting point that he brings in, and this goes to our colleagues in the Fourth Estate who are on the business desk and who think for that 1 month it is going to be Toskin and Co doing all the work. I think he has introduced a very interesting point, and if I was seated somewhere on Westlands or on Mombasa Road, I'm talking about telcos, I would think about M-Pesa or mobile money concept for Kenyans and the different funds from different countries who will be traveling. But Toskin, let's talk about that opportunity.
Yes.
From a Fourth Estate point of view. What sort of opportunities does this present other than just traveling to Egypt to cover Harambee Stars and God forbid if they're out by the group stages, then obviously you lose that right that we were talking about. But there will be 8 teams left in that tournament, and finally there's going to be a winner on July 19th. What opportunities do you see for us?
Of course, we can get the opportunity to generate a lot of content. Look, Kenya having qualified, it poses now a challenge for us to go back and do research to see how Kenya qualified for the first time 1972, 88, 90, 92, 2004, and now we've got to do
I'm going to hold you on that thought. We take a quick break. Remember, we are coming to you from the Panari Sky Center on Mombasa Road in the Kenyan capital, Nairobi. We are talking matters Africa Cup of Nations, and this is about setting the pace, making sure that by the time the tournament kicks off, you are set and ready with all the right info. And we've only scratched the surface. When we return, we are going to get into the depth of it. We will try and get out the meat all for your sake. Stay with us. You're watching us on Kurunzi News. Welcome back. You're watching a build-up show for the 2019 Africa Cup of Nations, which is coming to you in the next few days live from the land of the Pharaohs in Egypt, and 24 teams will be converged there. We are talking about the first time that 24 teams will be featuring 6 groups of 4 teams each, and that is the meat that we want to try and dissect at this point in time. And without, going into detail, Toskin, I'm sure we were glued to our screens waiting for the draw on April 12th when it was happening in Cairo. And give us the general feel that you got when, as you saw the teams being drawn from the pots before we get into the specifics.
The Group A, of course, caught my eye because the host Egypt are in Group A. And later on, when they picked out Zimbabwe, it just got my, my blood and the head, racing back to 1994 World Cup qualifiers. There was a big issue between Egypt and Zimbabwe, but now they find themselves in the same group. Of course, there is Democratic Republic of Congo, one of the vastly talented teams, and I thought, wow, if they have Congo in that group and Egypt, where we all know Mohamed Salah, one of the top strikers in this world can say, that should be a cracking kind of group. So it was very interesting. But of course, I was looking at Harambee Stars, where they going to be placed, and finally they were out there. Pitted against Senegal, pitted against Tanzania, our close neighbors, and of course Algeria. That was a moment to behold. Well,
talking about that, for you, Melvin, not puristic football terms as Toskin would prefer. Looking at that group, Kenya has played Senegal, I think, almost every. I think this will be the 3rd time at the AFCON,
of course, yeah,
that Kenya is playing Senegal.
That was 90. We played against them 92
and 2004.
Yes. Yeah.
So I'm looking at that, and then of course there is a small subplot of Algeria and the rivalry that exists, and then you come closer home against Taifa Stars. As a football fan, and I want you to speak for the average football fan who's watching us right now on the different platforms, on YouTube, on Facebook, and on kurunzi.co.ke. What did you make? Did you get a feeling like we are out, or did you feel like tunaenda roju?
I think it puts us in a good position to prove ourselves. I would have actually preferred that we play Senegal first, but then that's what it is. Algeria is a pretty nice team. I've watched them play before. Tanzania, our good neighbors, will get away of putting them in a padlock. And I'm actually looking forward to Kenya playing. I'm more interested in the Senegal match because it is who against who. So I think Kenya-Senegal is a match not to miss.
Well, talking about Kenya, Senegal, and the question of who against who, I think this is one group that we are going to see who against who, and he's talking about Victor Wanyama, who plays his trade for Tottenham Hotspur, coming against Sadio Mane of Liverpool, who won the Champions League. I'm sure Toskin and those of us who subscribe to the other side across the road were not very happy to see Liverpool lift the trophy, the trophy with the big ears. And of course, when you talk about Algeria, there is Riyad Mahrez also involved in that. But let's talk about the groups now. You spoke about Group A. You have Egypt, you have Zimbabwe, you have the DRC, and you have, of course, our neighbors, Uganda, who are making their second successive qualification for the AFCON. What do you make of that group as quickly as we can, as we go through the groups?
All those teams have a chance of qualifying to the second round. Of course, Congo, Democratic Republic of Congo were in the same group with Zimbabwe in the qualifiers. Zimbabwe topped the group, and then Congo DR followed. Uganda also topped their group, so it's a tough one. Egypt were second in their qualifying group, although they are the hosts, but they were second behind Tunisia. So all those teams have the pedigree. Uganda, finalist 1978, they have come back. Now this is, I think, their second qualification for the African Cup of Nations. That will be a tough group, but of course I'll expect Egypt as host to get out of that group. The rest will be between Congo DR, Uganda and Zimbabwe to fight for the second ticket.
Well, that is Robin's prediction. Talking about predictions, we are going to do a lot of that here, but we are also going to help you to be able to make those predictions. As we call them here, they are called wawekezaji. Don't go anywhere else, because we are going to analyze all those odds. We will be able to tell you where your money will be if indeed you are looking to putting your money where your mouth is. Let's look at that group for you. Toskin says Egypt is a given for them to qualify to the next round. Who else do you think is going to join them in the knockouts?
I would think Democratic Republic of Congo.
Well, Melvin thinks Uganda and Zimbabwe have no chance in that group. Let's talk about Group B that boasts giants Nigeria, Guinea, Madagascar, and Burundi, who are making their debut in that group. Again, if I ask Melvin, he'll say Nigeria is a given. What is your take on that group? Talking about Nigeria, Guinea, Madagascar, and Burundi.
I would place Nigeria tops, and a tough cat fight between Guinea and Benin, based on history. Madagascar, they're giving in, they're actually going in for their first time. I wouldn't be so sure with them.
Well said. You're a football analyst. You watched those matches in the group stages, the qualification stages.
Madagascar.
Do you think there is a banana peel team in that?
Of course, Madagascar could spoil the party for the top dogs there, Guinea and Nigeria. Remember, Nigeria topped their group. Guinea also topped their group that had Ivory Coast. Ivory Coast qualified for the AFCON as a second team from their group. So Madagascar, a team that nobody knows what they can offer. You actually don't know what to do at that stage. But of course, they have been playing with Nigeria. Nigeria has never had problems beating Madagascar, but it's always very close. But Guinea, having topped the group that had Ivory Coast, that is to tell you that they have a good chance. And of course, Burundi with Fiston Razak being the second top scorer in the qualifiers, that will be something, to watch. It will be a tight group, but Nigeria and Guinea have to watch out on those two teams because they can spoil their chances.
Well, they've got to watch their backs, and we're talking about Group B in that respect. And I think Madagascar are playing Kenya in one of the build-up matches before the AFCON begins. Remember, Harambee Stars camping in France. They will be playing that match on, I think, tomorrow or is it today? It is actually today that they are playing that particular match on 7th of August. Let's talk about Group C. Of course, we had our predictions, but I want us to strip ourselves of our patriotism as Kenyans and talk about football.
Football doesn't have
analysts.
any patriotism. Of course, it's what you give on the pitch that counts.
Do you think, what is your take? Does Kenya stand a chance?
Yes, it does. And back to patriotism. Patriotism on a national level, yes, but not club level. Club level will be a bit different. Yeah. But because when you look at like Harambee Stars now, yeah, it is going to bring all the fans together. Be it somebody like me who's FC Bournemouth, I'll put him on
Wow, we have an FC Bournemouth supporter
Yes.
in this country.
I'll be in my Kenyans. Arsenal, Liverpool, you will shed all that, you will be in Kenya. All the matatus, you'll see them on the street, they'll all be Kenyan. So that would be...
In other words, what we agree here is that, and sorry for you who don't support Kenya or who is not a Kenyan for having a biased panel, we're going to try and balance this panel as much as we can, because we are also speaking to an audience that goes beyond our boundaries. Remember, Kurunzi News is not just in Kenya. And we are enjoying all this here at the Panari Sky Center, which will be the home of a unique AFCON watching experience. So if you're out there, start planning to be here at the Panari Sky Center. We will be giving you different experiences. Toskin, as difficult as it looks, Group D makes for a very, very exciting football group with Morocco, with Côte d'Ivoire, and South Africa and Namibia. We have the Southern African derby in that, and we have the West African, or if you like, West Northern African derby.
Yes.
Talking about Côte d'Ivoire and Morocco. What do you make of that group? It has been quote unquote been dubbed as one of the most difficult groups.
It's a group of death. That's Group D. I think it also stands for group of death because Ivory Coast has the pedigree. Their World Cup, they've been to at least 2 World Cups. We have Morocco there, who have also been to several World Cups. They are the champions 1976, Ivory Coast the champions 1992, and I think that was 2015. And you have South Africa 1996 African champions. And on Namibia there, maybe they will want to say they can have a chance against their Southern Africa.
A boy in a group of men?
Yes, the boy, yeah, Namibia. That's the brave warriors they call themselves. So they'll want to shoot down the Bafana, the Atlas Lions of Morocco, and of course the Elephants. So maybe they'll come back in there saying, look, we are the brave warriors. We can take on anybody in this group. But of course, that will be a difficult group. Hervé Renard, the coach of Morocco, will be facing Ivory Coast, with whom he won the 2015 African Nations Cup. So it will be a very interesting group for me.
Interesting group. I will not ask for any prediction for that particular group for obvious reasons. Like he said, it's one of the most difficult. But let's look at what Group E has to offer. You're looking at, again, you have Mauritania in there, you have Angola, you have Mali, and then Tunisia. From the making of your face, you have obvious qualifiers from that group, Melvin?
Wow, that's a tough one because Mali versus Tunisia is a nice match. Malians play wonderful football.
Exactly.
Across the ages, be it under, I think under 20 is currently going on, and you watch them play. You say,
I watched them against Argentina.
Exactly. This is nice football. This is nice football. So they, I mean, we know Mali. They come from a long way. Tunisia, great country, great football background. I would put the two of them ahead of the rest. Not ruling out Angola, they're quite physical. Mauritania is also a good team, but I would put my money on Tunisia, Mali.
Of course, 2004 African Cup of Nations, which was hosted by Tunisia. I think they also played. But the one that remains etched in my mind was 1994 African Cup of Nations. And Mali beating Tunisia, the first game of the tournament, 2-0. That was a match to behold. And I want to believe that they will serve the same kind of match when they meet in Egypt. But of course, Mauritania, many Kenyans, maybe you don't know much about Mauritania, but when we qualified for the African Cup of Nations in 2004, Mauritania was one of our opponents, but now they've made strides. They are now in Egypt. I want to watch. There was a story the other day. They've already signed a big jersey deal with a Moroccan company to supply them with the jerseys. Those jerseys are now selling like hotcake in Nouakchott, the capital of Mauritania. So they'll bring color because that is the first appearance at the African Cup of Nations. So don't rule out that feel-good factor they will bring in there.
And obviously, talking about feel good, we are feeling good hosting you here for this particular one. And we are saying, by the way, we are enjoying this. You can see the gentlemen are enjoying this. You're not likely to see this from anybody else except courtesy of Kurunzi and Panari Hotels, and who are hosting us here today, and they are going to do this for longer, and of course they will do the same for you as well, who is watching at home and who lives in Nairobi, or you who will be traveling to Egypt. And remember, Nairobi is a transit point, so why not make a point and spend a night here, watch the lions and giraffes across the road from where we are before you catch your flight to the Jomo Kenyatta International Airport, which is just about 10 minutes away from where we are. Let's look at the final Group F. Quite interesting. You have Ghana and Cameroon who have a pedigree, and then you have little known, or as people would call them, underdogs in Guinea-Bissau and Benin. What are we likely to see from that combination?
My friend, there's no longer a small team in Africa. Benin have the quality. They've got several players playing in France and even the English Championship. They've got, I think, 2 players in the championship. So they are coming in there. The other day, their coach was saying, look, will not be pushovers. Of course, Guinea-Bissau, they have got several players from Portugal. You know, it's a Portuguese-speaking country. But Ghana, there's been a lot of celebrations around Ghana. The president, Nana Akufo-Addo, you know, hosting the team. There's been the talk of Asamoah Gyan returning to the team. So there's that feel-good factor. But of course, the champions, Cameroon, I think Cameroon will not be wishing to drop that trophy just like that.
As the defending champions,
yes,
you would pitch them as top, as the defending champions.
Well, we are talking about that conversation. We are trying to get into the fleshy part of this discussion. Obviously, talking about the AFCON. Over the years, we have known the Africa Cup of Nations, and Robin can tell you that he has done so many headlines in the Standard about controversies around African football, and it is African football is never short of that. Interestingly, when we return, we'll be able to talk about some of that. And this time round, I'll ask Toskin to remind me whether I missed anything in terms of controversies around bonuses and allowances, because that has been a very, very common story. But this time around, I haven't quite had so much of it. So we take a quick break here at the Panari Sky Center, and we return to speak more matters AFCON 2019. Stay with us.
Only 2.5 hours drive from Nairobi, and perfectly situated by the thundering Thompson Falls, with over 20 cottages and lavish rooms that are surrounded by well-manicured grounds overlooking breathtaking views, we proudly present the Panari Resort, Nyahururu. As you make your way into this serene establishment, every care has been taken to cater to you. Our staff are always ready and willing to fully accommodate your every requirement, whether your trip be business or pleasure. We pride ourselves in making your stay with us a one-of-a-kind experience, from the moment you check in all the way to your very own room or villa. Every measure was taken when it came to creating a place that you want to come back to time and time again. Whether it's the comfortable workstation or the lavish choice in bedding, you are top of mind every step of the way. A personal fireplace in each room, meticulous finishings in all the bathrooms, and of course, it's the details that give each room its unique character. With options of single rooms to double rooms, family rooms and the oh so lovely villas, we have everything you need dependent on your travel needs. For a more intimate setting, couples and travelers alike can opt to dine in or head to our main restaurant, the Brown Olive. Our signature restaurant is an exquisite choice should you opt to enjoy your meal in this grand space, be it breakfast, lunch or dinner. Take this opportunity to challenge our resident chef to create one of his trademark dishes and get ready to be whisked away on a culinary journey unlike any other. Boasting a heated pool, our gym is fully equipped to meet your needs and a fully kitted salon at your beck and call. Our spa, Eucalyptus, is where one can come to relax and simply get pampered with a wide array of treatments. We provide steam and sauna facilities and a top-of-the-range massage menu. For the avid golfers, the Nyahururu Golf Club is only a stone's throw away from the resort. Maybe you'd like something a little slower. A visit to Lake Olbolasat is sure to impress you. Our expansive grounds also allow for team building exercises, making it perfect for corporate retreats. We offer superb and modern conferencing facilities to cater for large parties, small group sizes, or executive meetings. A great place to sit back and take in the day's events or simply unwind is the most elegant bar in Nyahururu, the Silky Oak Bar. You're guaranteed to find something here that will tantalize your taste buds. For a change of scenery, you can also choose to enjoy your meal in our evergreen courtyard. All this because at the Panari Resort, Nyahururu, we go out of our way to make you feel at home. A proud member of Panari Hotels, Kenya.
Welcome back to the Panari Sky Center on Mombasa Road in the Kenyan capital, Nairobi. Just 10 minutes away from the Jomo Kenyatta International Airport, a key transit point for African travelers. And if you are somewhere thinking about flying to Egypt for the African Cup of Nations, I'm thinking our brothers and sisters from Zanzibar, our brothers from Namibia, our sisters and everybody from Zimbabwe. Are you in Uganda? Are you in Nigeria? Are you in Ghana? Or wherever it is that you are and wish to travel to Egypt? Remember, this is a place for you to enjoy African football experience just the Panari way. Brought to you by Kurunzi and all our partners. We want to welcome you back to this conversation. We are building up for the 2019 AFCON, which is happening in Egypt. And we were talking about the groups. Having looked at the groups, of course, in quick analysis, let's now talk about how the teams are preparing themselves. And Robin, I am sure you've written enough headlines about those preparations, you know, from the selection of the preliminary squads to how the final teams are being whittled down. And here at home in Nairobi, we had controversies of our own about the selection of the national team. What
I think that was I wouldn't even call it a controversy. I would say it was a healthy debate, because for the first time we've not had issues to do with allowances, player allowances and all that. The government came in with 250 million. Maybe later, I don't know, but then I'm very optimistic. The team is in France preparing for the tournament. So that was positive. But of course, the issues of player selection, that was a healthy debate. I wouldn't really call it a controversy. But some people would say Jesse Were should have been in that plane to France and finally to Egypt. But then we leave that to the coach. But when we'll come back, I know we'll have more time to talk about this. We'll now analyze the Harambee Stars squad. But of course, I think for the first time, Amulioto, the fact that our team was afforded the best preparation ever, that is good for us.
Fantastic. Because matches are never won on the pitch. They're won before. How you prepare determines whether you get it or you don't.
Exactly.
So by the time you are leaving your country to go either preparations like the way we've done into France, if we had issues even going, then we wouldn't expect much. But if they've left on a good footing, then we expect the very best of what we know of them.
I didn't know at some point that I'll be singing praises of Football Kenya Federation, because for so many years they've had problems, but then with the new leadership they've had their challenges. But for the first time, the logistics of Harambee Stars traveling, I think they've been fantastic. We have to give the devil his due, that I think Harambee Stars have had the best of times, to prepare. We've not seen any other problems with the team.
There are no problems, and of course the only scare that there was Raisol, Michael Olunga's club, having issues releasing him, but he has joined camp in southern France, and I think that is a good motivation. But then, like I always say, I would go by my favorite punchline, which is that to whom much is given, much is expected, and that is the challenge that Harambee Stars and co find themselves in, because for the first time I think we are having the best preparations. And if you speak to those who have been involved before, they'll tell you, I mean, I wish this happened in my time. But that has not taken away controversy from elsewhere in Africa. We are seeing the coach of Bafana slamming Safa for what he calls not good enough preparations. We will not get into that, but I want us to get into the controversy that has surrounded CAF for the last few days. We are talking about introducing video-assisted refereeing for the first time in a CAF tournament. We have had a taste of that in the CAF Champions League. It all came down in shame, and we have a replay looming after the AFCON.
I don't know.
And
I don't know if we will have even that replay, because Esperance are saying they may not go out
so,
there.
I mean, I want us to delve a little into that, Oskin. And what is it? You know the story of what happened, that the VAR did not work for that particular game in the final. And here we have stories coming from Paris saying the CAF president was arrested and the issues around corruption. What does that do to African football? And how about the timing? Just a few days to the AFCON?
It's a big shame. It's a big shame. I'm sure wherever the remains of the founding president of CAF are resting, that is Abdulaziz Salem from Egypt. He really pushed for the formation of CAF in 1956. They went to Switzerland to push for that agenda, but then he was laughed off. He was told, look, you are coming here with only 3 nations as founding nations of CAF, just give us a break. But then he pushed for it. 1957, February 8th, CAF was born. But now, fast forward, we have controversy, we have shame. Ahmad being arrested, detained in France, and then question on issues to do with corruption. That is really bad for our game. That game between Esperance and Wydad Casablanca, it shouldn't have gotten to a point where somebody said, look, we don't have a component of the VAR. Now, you are unable to provide a very important component of the VAR in the top club championship, that is a final, and now you are saying you are taking VAR to Egypt. How sure are we that we will not be told again that the VAR is not working? That has to be a wake-up call for the CAF Executive Committee. They have to sit down with Ahmad, and then they have to thrash this. But of course, again, the shame of having a replayed final, Esperance versus Wydad Casablanca, that is weird. But of course, we have to consider all the facts and say who made the mistake and then resolve.
Talking about that, and I want to rope in a component of marketing and dealing with corporate sponsorship of events like this. From where you sit, is it a deja vu of sorts in terms of the joke that African leadership and management is? And if you were a corporate associated with CAF, and you have to make that decision, do you think replaying the final of the CAF Champions League after the Africa Cup of Nations due to controversies that would have been avoided. Would you be comfortable with that as a white-collar executive?
In terms of brands and corporate organizations emphasizing on good discipline and good mannerisms, we've seen this before. We've had the story of Nike. We've had the story of Coca-Cola in the World Cup. I think, was it Ronaldo or something like that? They put their foot forward because their brand suffers. When a company puts its name or its brand's name on the front of a football team or a basketball team or an athlete, marathon, whatever it is, they expect the best.
Yes.
Good manners, even spectators. They are expected to behave in the best possible way.
We didn't see that behavior in that final and the subsequent decisions. Yeah.
So,
I mean, again, this is a conversation that would go on, and I want to invite you, our viewer and our follower, whatever platform you choose, be it on YouTube, on Facebook, or directly on kurunzi.co.ke. Let's keep this conversation alive because it doesn't end here. Digital platforms have given us the possibilities to do everything continuous, and we will pick up this conversation again and talk about the different aspects. But I want to thank my panel here, Robin Toskin, sports editor, The Standard, and Melvin Amulioto, who is a media consultant. My disclaimer stands for purposes of this particular conversation. And of course, what a way to end this, and thank Panari. I was hoping that Simon would be here so that we could order our platter for everybody here. And by the way, so that you know what it means to be here at the Panari Sky Center, everybody has been catered for, including the crew that you're not able to see. They have something just like we do. And Simon, I am looking at, again, as part of savoring the hospitality that you have, how about some platter? I was told you have a platter that goes for about $13. That is 1,300 shillings for you in Kenya, and it is a lot better when you consider the ambience, when you consider how it is served. It is a lot better for you to be able to come here and enjoy as you watch the best of African football, which is happening from the 32nd edition of the Africa Cup of Nations, which will come to you live from Egypt on 21st of this month all the way to July 19th. Remember, for the first time in the history of African football, the East African region has 4 teams playing in that tournament, and I'm talking about Kenya's Harambee Stars, Tanzania's Taifa Stars, Burundi, and then of course you have Uganda. What a party this promises to be. And if you are in Nairobi, it doesn't matter your nationality. Remember, football brings us together, and Panari will make it happen for you, so it doesn't matter. During the opening ceremony on 21st, we invite you right here, and throughout the tournament we will be right here, regardless of where you come from Congo, from the DRC, from Ghana, from Nigeria, our Oga brothers who are in Nairobi now. This is the place for you to be. So Simon, we are going to enjoy that platter. Get us 2 platters for ourselves. Let's enjoy that. And we are asking you to also come and enjoy that. And on behalf of the team that has made this possible, I want to thank you for following. Remember, you can also read all the latest news, be it politics, be it business, be it international affairs. You can read all that on www.kurunzi.co.ke. You can as well follow us on swahili.kurunzi.co.ke. On Facebook, this is facebook.com/KurunziKE, and you can also follow us on YouTube. And of course, Panari, who are our hosts. You can be able to follow them on their different platforms for the best experience in terms
I'll be
of
selling the newspaper.
hospitality. And of course, the Standard newspaper is there, and all the other platforms that fall under the Standard group, talking about KTN, KTN News, KTN Burudani, and Farmers TV, and Mount Kenya newspaper.
course.
All those give you a good bouquet, a good catalog of whatever it is that you're looking for. You will get it, and all that is happening. The melting pot is called Kurunzi News, and the venue is Panari Sky Center. Until next time, on behalf of everybody, we say Africa, kwaheri.
Showkey.